It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Judith Gamera delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region on today's headlines. The Court of Tax Appeals has denied the plea of Rappler Holdings Corporation and Executive Editor Maria Ressa for the charges of tax evasion to be junked against them. President Rodrigo Duterte has signed the rice tariffication bill into law. And the U.S. and Thailand hold the annual joint Cobra Gold, the largest U.S.-led military exercises in Asia. The Court of Tax Appeals has denied the plea of Rappler Holdings Corporation and Executive Editor Maria Ressa for the charges of tax evasion to be junked against them. In junking their plea, the First Division ruled that for amended information against them accomplished their purpose. The Supreme Court has ruled that an information needs only to state the ultimate facts constituting the offense, and not the finer details of why and how the crime was committed, the court said. The court also junked Resecamp's argument the trial should not push through, as they had a pending motion for reconsideration before the Department of Justice. The court said the resolution of Assistant State Prosecutor Zenomar Machacon Caparos denying such motion for reconsideration had already been submitted. The administrative case filed by the Bureau of Internal Revenue against the accused, on the other hand, should not be a bar to the institution of the criminal proceedings before this court, as it is well settled that an assessment is not necessary before a criminal charge for tax evasion may be instituted, the court said. The court's decision, which came after Ressa posted bail for the cyber libel charges filed against her by businessman Wilfredo Keng, effectively paves the way for a full-blown trial. The court set the case for pre-trial on March 13 at 8:30 a.m. The Department of Justice filed the 4 tax cases against Rappler before the CTA in November 2018. A 5th tax fraud case was filed separately before the Pasig Regional Trial Court. Meanwhile, the United Nations on Friday called for $920 million in aid for around 1 million Rohingya taking shelter in Bangladesh after bloodshed in Buddhist-majority Myanmar. About 740,000 of the Muslim minority fled to Bangladesh as a result of a military crackdown in August 2017, condemned by the UN as ethnic cleansing. They joined another 300,000 Rohingya who were already living in their overcrowded camps in Cox's Bazar following previous bouts of violence. In a joint statement, the UN Refugee Agency and the International Organization of Migration said they were looking to raise $920 million or 870 million euros to meet the massive needs of more than 900,000 refugees from Myanmar and over 330,000 vulnerable Bangladeshis in host communities. Critical aid and services such as food, water, sanitation, and shelter represent more than half of the funding needs this year. Other key sectors of the appeal include health, site management, protection activities including child protection, and addressing sexual and gender-based violence, immunization education, and nutrition, it added. UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi called on Myanmar to take urgent action to address the root causes of this crisis, which have persisted for decades, so that people are no longer forced to flee and can eventually return home in safety and dignity. In other news, Junta Chief of Prayut Chan-Ocha's grip on power was tossed into doubt by the political cameo of a princess. But a week later, his ambitions to rebrand as a civilian leader appear back on track, a survivor for now of Thailand's treacherous politics. Princess Ubolratna's candidacy for premier for a party aligned with billionaire ex-premier Thaksin Shinawatrai appeared to have kicked over a totem of Thai politics, that the military alone is the unassailable partner of the monarchy. Minutes later, Prayut, a former army chief of seized power in 2014, accepted the nomination for prime minister by a junta-linked party, threatening to put him on an electoral collision course with a royal. In a country where the public rarely gets a read on the backroom power plays of the elite, much of Thai social media erupted in glee at the supposed fall from favor of the group hectoring junta chief. Rumors of an impending coup against Prayut and his junta spun out. But hours later, the political game turned on its head. Ubolratna's younger brother, King Maha Vajiralongkorn, blocked her highly inappropriate move into frontline politics, with a rare statement publicly exposing the visions inside the palace. The Thaksin-aligned, the Thai Raksachart party, which proposed her, is now on a fast track to dissolution by the courts for hostile action to the constitutional monarchy, threatening to take with it the electoral aspirations of the Shinawatrai camp. That has left Prayut still very much in power and closer than ever to becoming prime minister after the March 24 poll.
เราก็มั่นใจตรงที่ว่าในตลอดระยะเวลาที่เราเคยทำงานกับประชาชนทุกครั้งที่เรากลับมาเนี่ยเราทำให้เศรษฐกิจดีได้ทุกครั้งเศรษฐกิจที่ไม่ดีเพื่อไทยแก้ได้ทุกครั้งตั้งแต่เป็นไทยรักไทยและครั้งนี้เนี่ยจุดที่เป็นความทุกข์ของประชาชนมากที่สุดก็คือเรื่องเศรษฐกิจ
The main objective of Pheu Thai Party is to restore democracy, restore peace, and to bring back economic development to Thailand. If we have the chance to run the country again, we are certain that Pheu Thai Party can boost up economic of Thailand to become one of the most strange tiger in Asia.
Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un's de facto chief of staff, Kim Chung-son, is in Hanoi, where he will reportedly discuss the preparation for the second summit between American President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, which is planned to take place on the 27th to 28th of February in the Vietnamese capital. The North Koreans had arrived in Beijing and were expected to board a plane bound for the Vietnamese capital, Hanoi, Yonhap said, with the high-stakes meeting now less than 2 weeks away. Kim Chung-son was part of the team overseeing protocol in the run-up to the first Trump-Kim summit, and Yonhap said the delegation was expected to have discussions with U.S. officials on the logistical preparations for the Hanoi meeting. The identities of the 11 other officials were not reported. Pyongyang has set to prove any official confirmation of the February 27 to 28 summit, which will be the second time the two leaders come together following their June 12 Singapore meeting. That produced a vaguely worded document in which Kim pledged to work towards denuclearization with no hard timeline agreed. In preparation for Hanoi, U.S. envoy for North Korea Stephen Biegun was last week in Pyongyang for 3 days of talks with the officials. Biegun said they had been productive, but more dialogue was needed. The U.S. State Department said talks during Biegun's trip explored Trump and Kim's commitments of complete denuclearization, transforming U.S. DPRK relations, and building a lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula. Specifically, discussions on declaring an end to the 1950-53 Korean War could have been on the table, with Biegun last month saying Trump was ready to end this war.
the famous pyramids of Giza. Stay tuned to watch Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Reporting from EBC Egypt Bureau, I'm Zara Angeles Valdez, and I am one with Twin Life.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave some love by giving it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe here at EBC Digital Nest so you don't miss any of our upcoming features.
Welcome back. 2 people were sentenced to death by a Myanmar court for the murder of a Muslim lawyer and Aung San Suu Kyi advisor after a drawn-out trial backlit by allegations of impunity with a main suspect still at large. Connie, whose work and fate made him a target of hate speech online by Buddhist nationalists, was shot in the head at Point Black Range outside Yangon Airport in January 2017 while holding his infant grandson. The brazen daytime murder shocked the country and came about 8 months after civilian leader Suu Kyi's administration entered the office. Connie was a legal advisor to her National League for Democracy and had been working on plans to amend the 2008 military-drafted constitution, which gives the armed forces control of defense and a quarter of parliamentary seats. Critics have said the slow trial fell short of establishing a complete picture of what led to the murder, pointing to the military backgrounds of 2 suspects on trial and that elusive fugitive thought to be the mastermind. Judge Ting Mong Mong sentenced gunman Kilip, who also shot and killed a taxi driver while fleeing, to death until he dies by hanging. Though Myanmar has the death penalty, it has not been carried out in at least 10 years, according to the Amnesty International. The shooter also received an extra 23 years in hard labor for weapons charges, and the death of cab driver Nawin, who chased him after Connie was gunned down. Accomplice Ong Win Zhao, who was at the airport, was also sentenced to death.
finding a better being, low agent is in the general meaning. Midazuka, not had a shinny, a point in the air, good in a general sending. That one may look Yai Apino, the water Tajaro, and
in other news, President Rodrigo Duterte has signed the rice tariffication bill into law, Senate President Tito Soto said. The signing came after the president met with various rice traders who had been opposed to the measure that essentially allows the market to be flooded with cheaper rice imports for as long as they are imposed a tax. Under the measure, rice traders can import an unlimited quantity of rice for as long as they pay the 35% tariff on imports from other Southeast Asian countries. The president had said there was an urgent need to ensure the availability of rice in the country, amid reports of rice shortage in some parts last year. Still in the Philippines, insurance companies in the country have been given the go-ahead by regulators to invest their funds in state-led infrastructure projects in a bid to boost the growth of the Philippine economy and help these firms meet the higher net worth requirement imposed on them for this year. Insurance Commissioner Dennis Puna has issued Circular Letter 2018-74, which enumerates the guidelines on how local insurance companies can invest their funds in the infrastructure projects of the government under the Philippine Development Plan, or the PDP. Under Circular Letter 2018-74, insurance and reinsurance firms may now invest in debt or equity security instruments for infrastructure projects under the PDP, participating either through the project proponents, financiers or sponsors, or through operation and maintenance contracts. The circular creates a new investment channel for insurers and open new opportunities for insurers to improve risk-adjusted returns, portfolio diversification, and asset liability matching. Funa also said that with the administration's Build program in full swing, insurers can take advantage of investing their assets in infrastructure projects to aid them in improving their revenue that would address their compliance with the statutory network requirements under the insurance code. The activities which may be undertaken as provided under the PDP include highways, railways, non-rail-based transit facilities, port infrastructure, airports, warehouses, environmental and solid waste management related facilities, and climate change mitigation and adaptation infrastructure projects. This year, insurance companies are required to comply with the increased net worth requirement of 900 million pesos, coming from 550 million pesos in 2016. For purposes of determining the net worth of an insurance and reinsurance company, investment in infrastructure projects duly approved by the Insurance Commission shall now be considered as admitted assets. Furthermore, an important feature of the new regulation is methodology in calculating the risk factors of the investments in infrastructure, in order to encourage insurer investment while still safeguarding their financial stability. Before an investment in infrastructure is approved by the insurance regulator, insurers are required to submit the financial statements of the infrastructure projects, which will be evaluated by the regulator to determine the risk impact on the capital of the insurer. ASEAN in Focus will be right back. Stay tuned.
Po Cerudo, lagi po kayong manood ng Young Once Upon a Time Season 2 tuwing linggo, alas 8 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net 25.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. The U.S. and Thailand hold the annual Joint Cobra Gold, or the largest U.S.-led military exercises in Asia, involving grueling drills in the Thai jungle, war games, humanitarian assistance, and disaster relief exercise. This year's 11th-day exercise is the 30th edition, which sees 4,500 U.S. personnel participate directly in the exercise. Watch this.
the whole reason that we're here is so that if something happens anywhere and we have to work together, it's easier for us to blend when it really matters. And it's also just fun to be able to meet other people from around the world and just collaborate and meet and see how we're similar, how we're different.
That a lot of our tactics and our procedures are more similar than what we originally thought. So, I mean, you think you come in learning things, but when they're operating the same way that you are, it's a pleasant surprise that you don't really need to learn much because everyone's already operating the same.
Meanwhile, the palace on Saturday, February 16, welcomed the latest weather stations or SWS survey that showed that a majority of Filipinos believe that the number of drug addicts in their area has decreased over the past year. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said the fact that 66% believe this was such a confirmation of the successful efforts of the campaign against illegal drugs, a centerpiece program of his administration. In a statement, Panelo said this was notwithstanding the harshest criticisms, brickbats, and pressures the current government is receiving here and abroad, with the political opposition and the detractors of the president having been most vocal in using the drug war to vilify the chief executive and his administration, even bringing the issue to the International Criminal Court. He added the opposition has remained skeptical despite the significant strides made by their authorities in relation to prohibited narcotics, even pointing out there remains demand and supply on illegal drugs. He also said that they asked them to stop playing blind dumb and instead listen to the people. 83% of the people of Mindanao say there are less drug addicts there. 71% in the Visayas say there is a decrease. 67% in Metro Manila likewise say there is a decrease, while 54% in Luzon share the same sentiment. Panelo also added that even as people acknowledge the administration's efforts to bring down the number of drug personalities, their focus and drive remain unwavering in destroying the drug apparatus and putting behind bars the drug pushers, with strict observance to operational protocols until the last day of the president's term of the office in 2022. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Judith Camara, and I'm on with 25.